Dear students, let us begin with the third part of the lesson on India-Sri Lanka relations, in which we will discuss about the Kachitu Island issue, the way forward, Indian community and China as a factor in Sri Lanka and India relations. Let us discuss about Kachitu Island issue. The British had used Kachitu Island since 1920 as a naval gunnery practice range. The island is 1 mile long, 300 yards broad and has an area of 285.2 acres. It is a barren, uninhabited place and without drinking water. Notably, fishermen from India and Sri Lanka had built a Catholic church here dedicated to St. Anthony, considered the guardian of fishermen. Fishermen and pilgrims from both countries used to visit the church in March every year for a religious festival, believing that St. Anthony would protect them from turbulent seas and inclement weather. People from both northern Sri Lanka and Tamil Nadu shared their culture and ideas. Historically, the fishing communities of both countries have had similarities. They speak Tamil and have continued to maintain friendly relations. There was free movement of people between the two countries before independence, and this continued until 1983. However, after the 1974 and 1976 agreements and the outbreak of the civil war in Sri Lanka in 1983, the situation changed entirely, and the relationship between the people of the two countries underwent a transformation. According to the 1974 agreement, Indian fishermen and pilgrims would continue to enjoy their traditional rights. However, the Sri Lankan government did not subscribe to the Indian government's view. It argued that the agreement did not grant any fishing rights, but only the rights to dry their fishing nets, rest and the pilgrims' right to visit the island for religious purposes. In 1976, India and Sri Lanka reached another agreement on the boundary between the Bay of Bengal and the Gulf of Mannar. Unlike the earlier agreement, this one did not deal with any disputed island. However, it deprived India of fishing rights in the Pak Straits. While demarcating the maritime boundary with Sri Lanka, India attempted to find a trade-off between Kachitu and the Pak Straits. This resulted in the sacrifice of the fishing rights of Indian fishermen. These agreements were concluded in the name of maintaining good neighborly relations between India and Sri Lanka. The way forward. To resolve this long-standing dispute, several steps can be taken. Ban fishermen equipment. India must ban the use of fishing equipment in Sri Lanka's waters in Pak Bay. Adopt sustainable fishing practices. Fishermen should adopt fishing practices that do not harm marine ecology and resources. Utilize travelers elsewhere. Travelers could be deployed on the Odisha coast where waters are deeper or modified for use as smaller fishing vessels. Establish a Pak Bay Authority, a PBA consisting of marine ecologists, fisheries experts, strategic specialists and government representatives from both countries can determine sustainable catch limits, allow fishing equipment and fishing schedules for Indian and Sri Lankan fishermen. Indian community. Sri Lanka has a diverse Indian community including people of Indian origin and Indian origin Tamils. While the people of Indian origins primarily engage in various business ventures, Indian origin Tamils work in tea and rubber plantations or migrate to Colombo for employment. The Indian High Commission actively engages with these communities and organizes cultural events to promote their heritage. China as a factor in Sri Lanka and India relations. China's increasing presence in Sri Lanka has garnered significant attention, extending beyond the popularly dubbed string of pearls framework and envelopment strategies. Over the years, China has solidified its status as a time-tested friend of Sri Lanka, playing a pivotal role in various aspects of the island nations. While diplomatic relations between Sri Lanka and China were established in 1957, it is only in recent years that the intensity of their relationship has grown considerably. The multifaceted dimensions of China's engagement with Sri Lanka primarily focus on infrastructure development, economic aid, investments, trade, and diplomatic support. China's footprints in Sri Lanka. Infrastructure development. One of the most significant Chinese footprints in Sri Lanka is its involvement in infrastructure development. Notable projects include the Hambantota Port, Katunayake Colombo Expressway, Norocholai Coal Power Project, Matala Airport, Colombo South Harbour Expansion Project, Shangri-La Hotel, and the Center for Performing Arts in Colombo. Chinese funding accounts for over half of Sri Lanka's construction and development loans, estimated at over $6 billion US, surpassing any other country. Hambantota Port. The Hambantota Port is a focal point of Chinese influence in Sri Lanka. This strategically located port is a commercial asset and holds military significance. It provides China with a critical vantage point to monitor maritime traffic between India's east and west coast, effectively encircling India. Economic engagement. China is Sri Lanka's largest foreign investor and lender with substantial loans and investments. It enjoys an advantageous position in the Sri Lankan economy, with Sri Lanka even accepting China's currency, the yuan, for international transactions. In contrast, India's presence in Sri Lanka's economic development is comparatively limited. Diplomatic support. China has consistently supported Sri Lanka diplomatically, especially in the face of international scrutiny over human rights accountability issues following the end of the civil war in Sri Lanka. China, India, and Russia played a pivotal role in defeating a UN resolution censuring Sri Lanka in 2009. This diplomatic support further solidified China's position in Sri Lanka. India's concern and responses. Strategic implications. India's main concern lies in the strategic implications of China's presence in Sri Lanka. It fears that infrastructure developed by China could potentially be used against Indian interests, particularly in a conflict situation. Dual use infrastructure. India is cautious about specific infrastructure projects with dual use potential. For instance, Chinese storage and fueling facilities in Hambantota or the modernization of the Colombo port could be turned to India's disadvantage in a conflict. India's response. India has subtly addressed its concerns, emphasizing diplomacy and regional cooperation. It recognizes its strengths in resettlement, tourism, cultural exchange, and trade. Besides, New Delhi acknowledges the importance of building constituencies in the region and maintaining bilateral ties with Sri Lanka for long-term peace and development. Let us summarize what we have discussed so far in this lesson. The India-Sri Lanka relationship is built on a deep-rooted historical connection and encompasses various dimensions of cooperation, including political, economic, cultural, and people-to-people ties. Both nations continue to strengthen their bonds and collaborate on regional and global issues. China's expanding influence in Sri Lanka, primarily through infrastructure development, economic aid, and diplomatic support, has raised strategic concerns for India. While India takes a cautious approach to address these concerns, emphasizing diplomacy and leveraging its strengths, Both India and Sri Lanka must maintain a balance between regional peace, strategic interests, and long-term development. I hope you understood what we discussed about India-Sri Lanka relations. We have concluded our lesson. Thank you.